Hi, welcome to 7 Facts, the channel where you'll get to discover little-known facts about every single country on this planet. Today we continue with the British territories, but keep in mind that there's an entire playlist dedicated to this subject, so go check it out. In today's episode we'll talk about Anguilla, another British overseas territory. Before we get into it, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. In return, you'll get to explore the hundreds of videos that are already up, plus 2 brand new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Anguilla is a small Caribbean country that's part of the British Overseas Territories. Just to clear things up, a British Overseas Territory is, simply put, a part of the former British Empire that has not been granted independence or has voted to remain British. They do, however, govern themselves, but have the British monarch as their head of state, with the UK handling the defence and foreign relations. Anguilla has been colonized by the British in 1650 and has been a British territory ever since. But today, the vast majority of Anguillians are not the descendants of those first British settlers, but rather their slaves. African slaves were brought here by force early on, mostly from Central and West Africa. It's their descendants that today represent the majority of the population, over 90%. In 1825, Anguilla was placed under the administration of the nearby colony of St. Kitts, and by 1882, St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla were united as a single colony. In the next century, in 1967, Britain granted St. Kitts and Nevis full internal autonomy, and against the wishes of the locals, Anguilla was included in the new autonomous dependency. This led to 2 Anguillan revolutions, in 1967 and 1969. In this period, the island operated as an independent republic. The goal of the revolution was not independence per se, but rather independence from St. Kitts and Nevis, and a return to being a British colony. After 2 years of negotiations, a contingent of 300 British soldiers peacefully restored control of the island. It wasn't until 1980 that Anguilla was allowed to formally disassociate itself from St. Kitts and Nevis, and while Anguilla remained an overseas territory, St. Kitts and Nevis was granted full independence. Though not the most accessible Caribbean island, that is precisely why this British overseas territory is so appealing. This place is one of the top tourist destinations in the entire Caribbean. Anguilla lays claim to some of the finest beaches in the region, as well as some of the most luxurious hotels. It's not exactly the cheapest place, that's for sure, but allegedly it's all worth it. Add to this the riches that lie below the waves, where you find spectacular coral reefs and a staggering diversity of marine life. With a population of 1,067 people, the valley is the capital of Anguilla. Even though it's a very small town and one of the smallest capitals in the world, the valley is pretty much the main town on the island, with all the government offices being here. There are few examples of colonial architecture here, due to the relocation of Anguilla's administration to St. Kitts in 1825. Most of the valley consists of relatively modern buildings, however, never worry. It is after all a Caribbean port city, so the views and beaches are absolutely staggering. Anguilla has earned a reputation among the richest of the world. That's because they are a tax haven. The island's arid soil being largely unsuitable for agriculture, there's little natural resources to exploit. So the island's administration focused instead on 2 things: tourism and offshore banking. They thus became a popular tax haven, having no capital gains, estate, profit, or other forms of direct taxation of either individuals or corporations. In 2011 though, facing a mounting deficit, the Anguillan administration did introduce a 3% so-called interim stabilization levy, the country's first form of income tax. Since we're talking about a Caribbean island, you're probably expecting great weather all year round. And you're right. Throughout the entire year, temperatures vary little, from an average of 27 to 30 degrees Celsius. Rainfall is also erratic and it doesn't really become a nuisance. So if you're the kind of person who enjoys sunbathing, great beaches and warm seas, Anguilla might just be the place for you. Only try to stay clear of the area from August to October, because that's hurricane season and Anguilla is quite vulnerable to them. Also, if you're planning a vacation here, be sure to have enough funds, since Anguilla is one of the most expensive destinations in the Caribbean. When it comes to national sports, most countries list things like football, water polo, baseball, or maybe even cricket. But not Anguilla, as their national sport is boat racing. Sailing in Anguilla has a long and deep history and is one of the defining characteristics of the island. There are regular sailing regattas on national holidays, which are contested by locally built and designed boats. The first reference of sailing in Anguillan history involves the Battle of Anguilla during the Napoleonic Wars. Two French frigates tried to take the island, having been faced by a small Anguillan defense force. But the small force managed to dispatch a sailing ship to St. Kitts to request aid and stop the invasion. The name of the dispatched ship is not known, which is a shame, since it was undoubtedly the forerunner of the modern Anguillan racing boat. Boat races have been popular here since before 1840 and the tradition still goes on. The best time to see such an event is during the August week, a national holiday which commemorates the Emancipation Act from 1834 that freed all slaves under British rule. So these were 7 facts about Anguilla. I hope you enjoyed the video and will leave a like and subscribe. Share your thoughts and comments downstairs and do check me out on Facebook or Twitter. You can offer your support even more by visiting my Patreon page and becoming a patron. I hope to see you next time. Bye.